All right, today we're going to talk about something that is, believe it or not, absolutely essential for anyone doing research or academic writing, and that is the abstract. It's this tiny little piece of writing that does a ton of heavy lifting. It's your work's first impression, it's your ticket to getting published, and honestly, it's your best friend for navigating the crazy world of research.
Does this look familiar? Yeah, I thought so. You start a new project, you're all excited, and then bam, you're hit with this tidal wave of articles, papers, studies. It's just so easy to feel completely lost at sea.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? But what if you had a compass? Well, that's exactly what an abstract is. It's the tool that helps you navigate this giant ocean of information. It points you to the stuff that actually matters for what you're doing, and, just as importantly, helps you avoid everything else.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll kick things off with that information problem abstracts are meant to solve. Then we'll get into the two main flavors, the signpost versus the stand-in. From there, we'll see how to add some structure and style, look at abstracts that have a bit of an agenda, and finally, figure out how you can choose the right one for your own work.
Okay, let's get right into it. At the end of the day, pretty much every abstract you'll ever see falls into one of two main buckets. And if you can get your head around this one difference, everything else is going to make so much more sense. The absolute best way to think about this is with a simple analogy. Imagine one type of abstract is like a movie trailer. It gives you the vibe, it tells you what the film is about, and it helps you decide, do I want to watch this? The other type? That's more like a detailed plot summary on Wikipedia. It gives you the beginning, the middle, and the end. Spoilers and all. Okay, so that movie trailer has an official name. It's an indicative, or sometimes called a descriptive abstract. It's basically a table of contents in paragraph form. And honestly, it's a bit of a tease. It'll say things like the study's findings are discussed, but it won't actually tell you what those findings are. Its only job is to be a signpost, to help you decide if you want to read the whole thing.
And then we've got the other side of the coin, our detailed plot summary. This is the informative abstract, and this one is the real workhorse of the academic world. It gives you the whole story in a tiny package, the methods, the key results, the big conclusions. A lot of the time, a really good informative abstract can actually save you from having to read the entire paper, which, let's be real, is a massive time saver.
So you can see there's a classic trade-off here. On one hand, the indicative abstract, super quick to write, but it's just pointing you in a direction. On the other hand, the informative abstract takes more work, for sure, but it can literally stand in for the document itself. It really boils down to what you're trying to do. Are you just pointing the way? Or are you giving someone a shortcut? All right, so we've got our two main players, right? The signpost and the stand-in. Now let's see what happens when we start adding a little more structure and style to them. We're getting into the world of specialized abstracts, and we're starting with one that's all about clarity, the structured abstract. A structured abstract is basically just an informative abstract that's been obsessively organized. It uses these really clear, specific headings, which is why you see them everywhere in scientific and medical journals. And the research backs it up. They are way faster to read and easier to understand because you're not hunting around for information. It's all just laid out for you. And these are the usual suspects for those headings. You see that logical flow? It tells a complete story. It starts with the why and the background and aims, moves to the how with the methods, then the what in the results, and it wraps up with the so what in the conclusion. Super neat. And this is where it all just clicks. Look at this real-world example. You can see exactly how it fits that structure perfectly. As a reader, if all I care about are the methods they used, boom, my eyes go right to that section. It's all about efficiency. Okay, so everything we've talked about so far has been about trying to be a neutral summary, but some abstracts actually have a point of view, or they're written for a very specific audience. Let's dig into a couple of those now. First up is the critical abstract. This one's interesting because you don't see it very often. Why? Well, because it does something a little gutsy. It actually passes judgment. It doesn't just tell you what the paper says, it evaluates it, commenting on how good the methods were or how important the findings are. You can probably guess this requires some serious expertise, which is why they're so rare. And next we've got the slanted abstract. The name pretty much says it all. This is not trying to give you a summary of the entire paper. Nope, it's a mission-oriented summary, and it deliberately only pulls out the pieces of a study that matter to one particular group of people. This example makes it so clear. So imagine you have this huge, sprawling report on all scientific output in India. If you're writing the abstract for, say, an agricultural bureau, you're not going to bore them with the details on particle physics. You're going to slant it. You're going to pull out the one number that they actually care about, that agricultural sciences made up over a quarter of the total output. Same document,
totally different summary, all because it's tailored for a specific need.
So we've got signposts, stand-ins, super organized summaries, summaries with an angle. With all these options, how in the world do you know which one to use? Well, it really just comes down to picking the right tool for the job.
Think of this as your cheat sheet. If you've got something really long, like a book or a huge report, an indicative abstract is probably your best bet. For a standard research paper, you're almost always going to want an informative one. Working in science or medicine, it's all about that structured abstract. And for those internal reports at work, a slanted abstract might be the perfect way to get your key message to the right people fast.
So here's the big takeaway. There is no single best kind of abstract. Choosing one is a strategic decision. You've got to think about three things. What kind of document is it? Who am I writing this for? And what do I really want them to know?
Because at the end of the day, whether it's acting as a signpost or a stand-in, your abstract is the front door to your work. It's very often the only part people will read. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what story do you want that first impression to tell?